Welcome to this week's episode of the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. Today we are going to talk about West Desert issues, and joining us are the people that are closest to the issues that happen out here. We have Glenn Greenhall from Juab County, we have Dean Draper from Millard County, and we are going to have a discussion about the issues that really are driving survivability of the West. And that may sound a little bit dramatic, but really the survivability of the communities of the West Desert are at stake. It's not unlike the pioneers, where you looked at first issues of land, water, access, and invasion. So let's start the conversation with land access. Dean, what is the biggest problem with land out here?
Well, 70% of Millard County is public land. And in the BLM part of that, it's used for grazing, it's used for mining, it's used for recreation. Up until the current administration, there was a great drive to keep the public off of public lands, to curtail grazing allotments, to make it so mining couldn't happen. That impacts the economies of our counties. It reduces our tax base, and then it reduces the services available to our people. As far as the average person who came into western Utah, they would be allowed, just like in Hawaii, if you're on a sidewalk, a beach, or asphalt, you can go there, but you can't go anywhere else.
Okay, understood. What are some of the specific problems that have that threaten our status quo? The administration's changed, but there are things like the test range that have an impact on how we use public land and have a big effect in both your counties.
That's correct. The Utah Test and Training Range is extremely important to the free world. Mm-hmm. It's the only type of its range in the United States. And we support and are grateful for that. But we also need to understand that it can have a large impact on the residents of that area of the state of Utah. They're doing some expansion now. We're concerned about the possibility of some road closures and things. We've been working closely with SITLA as well as the DOD and others. But it's a mixed blessing, but we need to maintain the access to the lands.
Are there roads that actually cross? Are there multiple uses on the test range?
There's many uses across the test range. This latest expansion would allow some closures for that, but they have fly sorties, if you will, or have pilots from around the free world that come and test at this range. Mm-hmm. It's one of the few places they can fly what they call nap of the earth and do some of the training. Last time I was with the Air Force out of Hill Air Force Base, the pilot that was conducting the briefing had just returned from some very successful missions in Iraq. And he said, every tactic I used in Iraq, I learned right here on this range.
Wow. So it's not that they're dropping ordinances out there so much as it is that they're practicing maneuvers that create risk.
They're testing new technology.
Uh-huh.
The formal border for this is the Juab-Millard County line. But it's like the SR-21 Blackbird. It takes 3 states to turn one of those around. These things don't turn around at the border. They come out across Millard County's airspace. We have a project being developed on the Sevier Lake dry bed. Mm-hmm. And the fly zones extend in a vector out there. You have places where you cannot build above 100 feet above ground level, others where it's 200 feet above ground level. Well, that's also Millard County's next primary place for development. This mine that's going in on the lake bed there would have things that could possibly exceed that, so that their energy could be used to process their ultimate potash situation. What we're looking for is to not inhibit development in our counties with that. Out in Juab County, there are roads that will be closed. The people that live there will be told, but for 2-3 days, they don't move.
Well, if you live in Callio, that's kind of a problem, isn't it?
It is.
Is there a general solution to this? I mean, it's kind of different than the normal BLM, we're going to cut your grazing allotment type issue, right?
It is, but if you look at history, and I like to be an optimist, not a pessimist, but if you look at history, What often happens is what I call baby steps. They get a little bit, and then they get a little bit more, and then they get a little bit more, and you're never sure where you're going to end up. So you've got to be careful and watch as the ant begins to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Understood. Well, we've kind of just barely touched on this issue. It sounds like we're going to be coming back for an entire series of shows. We're going to move on to water when we come back here on the county seat and talk about that. That's an issue that's important to the counties. We'll be right back in a minute.
There is a place where looking out means looking in, where an impression lasting only a few seconds will be imprinted on a life forever, where courage is forged and innocence rediscovered, where remembering is rewarding and forgetting unforgettable. There is a place where truth is felt and where seeing is believing. There is a place.
Crisp, colorful, a world in transition. You don't have to travel the back roads of Maine to explore autumn in all of its glory. Beaver County offers fall in unique splendor, with drives along forgotten canyons and hikes through meadows exploding with vibrant hues of red and yellow. Hit the road with your family and discover a side of Beaver County you never knew you were missing. Autumn is fleeting, so don't hesitate. Beaver County, it's time to experience the real Utah.
All local products have a story of magical places, real people, and delicious recipes spanning generations. So go ahead and discover flavors you've never tasted and friends you never knew you had. Utah's own Discover Local Food.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking today about issues of the West Desert, which actually encompass several counties out here in the West. And our topic now is to look at the issues of water, which is the most important issue for survivability of any of the communities out here. We do want to talk a little bit about the water issues. Behind us is surface water, and most people think if you need a community to survive, you just build another reservoir, you tap a little more of a river, and your problems are solved. Is that not the case?
Absolutely not the case. Surface water is but a small part of the whole water scheme of things, the water systems, and I believe that people really have kind of a misunderstanding when it comes to water and what water is and the importance of it.
I know that every now and then in the news, Snake Valley water comes up, and people go, well, what does that have to do with Delta? What does it have to do with Callio in western Juab County? Because it's over in Nevada. Aren't they on a different aquifer?
They're on a different aquifer than we are right here, but they're not on a different aquifer from some of the rest of the state of Utah. We have studies that show that water actually flows from the Utah side of Snake Valley even in towards Salt Lake. And there are a couple of issues with that. It's not as much that the water goes to Salt Lake. Some of it does head that way. But if we start reducing the water pressure or the water flow on our side, some of the bad water from around some of the salt flats, things like that, will begin heading this way. It will deteriorate the water situation in Salt Lake County, but it could also destroy such things as Fish Springs, which is the National Wildlife Refuge.
So Dean, when you're talking about hydrostatic pressure of groundwater, basically I think I understand what Glenn's saying is you take water out of a chunk, the surrounding water is going to go in to fill in the void?
That happens. The mountain ranges in western Utah and across Nevada all have permeability at some point. In Nevada right now, there was a hearing last 2 weeks ago about pumping water out of the Spring Valley. That aquifer there, the LDS Church put together a study in 2017. If they were to pump water in the Spring Valley, according to that study, water would flow backwards from the Hamlin Valley and the Snake Valley in Utah back into the Spring Valley. That would have a draw that also brings water down from Juab and Salt Lake counties. It would reverse the flow depending on how much was taken out.
So if they basically take water out of that aquifer and pump it to Las Vegas, which I think they're trying to do, what happens to the water out here? Is there proof that this is actually happening?
They have models. They don't have proof yet. They do have some history, though. On the Utah-Nevada border in the Snake Valley, there's a large spring called Big Springs. It provides water that goes north to Esdale and up to Callio and Juab. The water table there has been dropping 6 to 8 inches each year for the past 5 years.
Now, you find that that's been true in Juab County as well?
That's true. We find that the existing wells and ranchers, farmers in Juab County, in Snake Valley, their water levels are dropping. I don't have exact measurements, but they've been dropping. I've toured that country many times, and where there used to be large seeps, if you're lucky now, there's a teeny puddle.
One other question. The argument that says Las Vegas, Salt Lake should get this water is that there's a higher need there. Do you guys agree with that model?
No.
I do not.
How do you justify that, Glenn?
I've had some experience, some of it in the electric power industry. There was a group that I was involved with that had some big players like Provo, some small players like Manti, Nephi, and Levan, and actually the power superintendent from Provo taught us all that a kilowatt is a kilowatt no matter what. It's not about how many people, it's about the individual people. And those individual people who have made their livelihood, made their life, carved out some very rough country, a place they can live and work, they deserve as much protection as any other resident or citizen of the state of Utah. And it's important that we understand that. People think that, you know, water is a small thing. It's important to understand a couple of points. One, that in order for humans to survive, there are three most, if you exclude air, there are three most important items. Number one is air. You can go a few minutes without air. Number two is water. You can go a few days without water. Number three is food. You can go some weeks without food. And people need to understand how important it is. And people in Callio, Trout Creek, Garrison, Baker, Nevada, they deserve just as much consideration as somebody in a larger valley. We need to stop interbasin flows if we're going to protect the lifestyle that, quote, is the American dream.
I know we're running a little long on time, but one very quick statement from you. What happens to the land if they do withdraw the water?
Okay, they're looking at doing evapotranspiration capture. That means that all of the plants in the valleys that they would pump from would die. It would leave an absolute desert with no plant growth on top other than what surface water might encourage.
Would that basically create a dust problem for some of the metro areas that are sucking the water in?
Absolutely. You would have a pollution with the dust that way. An interbasin transfer in any basins in any state sets a precedent where a large urban area could come after rural water and leave everybody sitting there with, we're in trouble.
That would be starving, we'd literally be starving to death eventually because a lot of food comes out of this area.
That's right.
Okay, we've got to take a break from this. We will be back with more of the County Seat, talking about West Desert issues, and we'll pick up with getting access to those when we return.
There's a little place on a Utah map where I was raised, where my heart's at, where the sagebrush grows wild and high, and the stars come out at night. Oh, there ain't nothing like being raised in the basin with a Ute reservation, skiing starvation, that Duchesne County life.
ATV? Check. Four-wheel driving? Check. Bouldering? Check. Mountain biking? Check. Hiking? Check. River rafting? Check. Adventure is about more than just crossing activities off of a list, but hey, if you can find a place that gives you everything you're looking for, all the better. In Emery County, you'll find the San Rafael swell, trails, lakes, and the small-town hospitality you're looking for. San Rafael Country, in the heart of Utah. Visit us and check something off your list.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are in the western part of Millard County, out in the great western desert of Utah, talking about issues that are really important to rural Utah, particularly people who live in this dry climate out here. We've covered the topic of land, we've covered the topic of water, but neither one of those amount for much if you don't have access. So one of the other key problems is access to roads. So we're continuing our conversation with Commissioner Draper from Millard County, and joining us is Tony Rampton from the Attorney General's office, who is the RS 2477 road czar for Utah. Tony, thanks for driving all the way out here to this RS 2477 road. So let's just have a chat a little bit about where we kind of are with RS 2477.
Well, where we are right now is that there are several different things that are moving forward. As I have said many times, everyone recognizes that litigating the 12,500 roads that the state of Utah and the counties are claiming won't happen.
It can't happen.
It can't happen.
Yeah.
Physically, it's impossible. So we have to come up with an alternative solution, an alternative process for processing these road claims. And so we've got three different groups working on that. The courts are working on that, the Congress of the United States is working on that, and BLM is working on that. So there are things in the works. It just takes so much time. That's the thing that's frustrating to people, is that it just takes a long time, and it will continue to take a long time. It's a big project.
So, you know, a lot of people look at this and say, well, what difference does this dirt road make? And you know, it may have been here 100 years ago, but who needs this road today?
Well, this has been used for over 100 years. This is a mining district. This is a grazing district. And it allows access. If this road were to be closed, you could take a 20-mile detour and still never get where you needed to be.
So who uses it today?
We have cattle producers that are out here, 3 different permits in this area. They come out to check their livestock. Over here to the west of us is what's known as Smelter Knoll. It's a rhyolite formation. Rockhounders come out here. Commercial rock salesmen, they come and they collect the different formations. They put them in aquariums and fireplaces. Mm-hmm. These people use this road for access to that. Down at the south end of Smelter Knoll is a crater, which in the 1940s they took a meteorite out of it that's in the Smithsonian.
Wow.
It's still a favorite for places to come, for people to come camp and enjoy everything, and this road facilitates that.
Well, why couldn't it just be a Title V?
That limits access in such a way that you just can't do anything with it.
Now, would that, if it stayed Title V, wouldn't that just, would it become, who would be the decider of how the road's used, or how it, whether it continues?
Well, BLM. Title V's cannot be compared to an RS 2477. A Title V is essentially a permit issued by the federal government. That permit is subject to conditions. BLM can place any kinds of conditions on that permit that they want to.
Including revocation?
They're always revocable. You cannot put together a Title V permit that is not revocable. The law disallows that. So that's a conditional permit that's revocable. An RS 2477 is actually a conveyance of title to a right-of-way that's permanent, that cannot be revoked. So you can't compare the two. They're very, very different animals.
Okay. I think we've covered as much as we're going to have time to cover this. One last final question. How much would it cost the county if you didn't have these roads out here?
Oh, it would be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars just in access. The grazing would go away. You could round them up on horseback, but permits have different times on them. It would be catastrophic.
Indeed. Well, we've covered the issue of roads, not as well as we'd like. We've spent several hours talking about this over the years, but there looks like there's some progress, as Tony said, and the counties are still really engaged in the fight to make sure that they maintain access. We're going to take a break from the county seat right now. When we come back, we will pick up some of the problems that are facing the West when we take a look at the current status of wild horses and how much impact that really has on people out here on the rangeland. We'll be right back with County Seat in just a minute.
What would you do with an extra day in Utah Valley? Explore the Wasatch Mountains? Snap a family photo at Bridal Veil Falls. Cool off on Utah Lake or the Provo River. No matter what you're searching for, you can find it in Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
The Utah Farm Bureau began as a collection of farmers supporting each other to raise the food we enjoy. Today, Farm Bureau membership encompasses everyone, whether ranchers, growers, or just everyday folks like you and me. Members enjoy discounts on items like vehicles and ATVs, or insurance that's very affordable. You don't have to be a farmer to join, and dues are small, but together we make a big difference in keeping our food supply local and abundant. Join Utah Farm Bureau.
The Layton Hills Mall offers more than just shopping. Bring the whole family and enjoy SeaQuest Interactive Aquarium to feed the fish and exotic birds, hold live reptiles, and even swim with the stingrays. Or pump up the action and visit Dartside, Utah's premier soft foam dart tag arena. And don't forget the Great Room Escape, where you can challenge your friends to solving mysteries inside themed rooms. So come and experience great fun at the Layton Hills Mall and visit playindavis.com for other great activities.
In 1990, when the BLM was still gathering horses, this spot looked like this. In 2000, after they had discontinued regular gathers of excess horses, the area looked like this. What's the difference? The foliage is gone, the ground cover is gone. This is this area today. And what you see here today is not only is the ground cover gone, but so is the soil. Welcome back to the county seat. We are talking about issues that are impacting the West Desert counties of Juab County, Millard County, Beaver County, and to some degree even Iron and Tooele County. Joining us today for this segment is Mark Winch, who is a cattle rancher out here in the West Desert in Beaver County. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Chad. Okay. Appreciate it.
So you run probably one of the bigger cattle operations out here, and this is part of your allotment area. Is that correct?
Yes, this is one of our summer pastures.
So I want to talk to you about the issue of what's happening to the land out here, because this entire wild horse and burro issue that keeps capturing the headlines and keeps causing the protests and keeps affecting BLM and the Congress and what they do. Is this about the horses or is it about the ground?
Well, this really isn't about the horses. This has to be a rangeland health issue. Over the years, we've seen horse numbers well above 300 head in this area. And it's supposed to have 0, actually. And as a rancher, the destruction of the resource is my main concern. I like to see a few horses. It's always been kind of a fun and entertaining thing. But when you come out here and you see horses, and horses in large numbers, destroying the resource like you can see here, and losing the grass and the foliage and being left with rocks.
In this case, even the topsoil. So let me ask this question, because I know people at home are thinking about this, particularly even the advocates. When was the last time you had cows on this land?
Oh, the last time I had cows on this land was about 3 years ago.
3 years ago. So.
But I'm supposed to be able to run 330 head here, and all I turned out was 50 head. So significant numbers. It's been a decade.
Okay, since you ran it like it is. So who ate that grass that's still here?
Oh, what little bit of grass is here, you can see, well, you can see right here, what's left with this plant, that's been a horse that's come along and cropped that, and it's pretty well destroyed.
Could a cow actually crop grass that close?
No, a cow's not going to be able to crop that grass that close. A cow's purely got bottom teeth, it wraps the grass and it pulls up and cuts the grass. But a horse has top and bottom teeth, and it can get right down to the dirt.
Okay, so we obviously can see, I mean, it seems to me obvious that this damage is caused by horses, but the thing that most concerned me and I'm most alarmed at in looking at this is that picture from 2000. While the ground cover was gone, you still had topsoil, and this is obviously different. Do you think you can rehabilitate this?
Oh, it's possible, maybe, but it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of money.
I don't know how you get grass to grow in rocks.
Well, it's going to be hard. It may not ever come back. And that's the real scary part, is here on these ranges, we're getting about 6.5 inches of water annually. And so the grass that is here needs to be managed and taken care of. And with cattle, we were able to do that. We're able to put them in for a certain period of time and then pull those cattle out, which helps the plants, helps them grow. But with horses, they're here all the time.
Okay, one quick question. How about the horses? Do you guys, does a ranching community want them off the land?
No. What we would simply like is horses to be held at the scientific level, a number that is going to be manageable.
And healthy for them?
Healthy for them and healthy for the range. I've seen starving horses, I've seen dying horses, and I've seen dead horses. And it's tragic. If you call that a humane source of compassion, to let these animals just die and starve on the range like that is absolutely cruel.
Mark, thanks for your time. Thanks, you for
Chad.
staying with us this entire half hour for the county seat. There's so much more to find out about it. And if you go to our website, our YouTube channel, or our Facebook page, you can find more in-depth interviews with the people we've had in the show. So we thank you for joining us today. Remember, local government is where your life happens and sometimes where your food comes from. Please be engaged and part of the solution. We'll see you next week on the county seat.